just like, but it's okay. Sometimes we need people like that in our lives just to give us a reality check, if you will. All right. But I'm not saying that this is Nahum either. I just typed in Nahum. I clicked on images, and this was one of the first more profound images that I saw of it. So maybe it is an artist portrayal of the prophet. Who knows? But Nahum, okay? And the title of my presentation for Nahum is Our Enemy Has Fallen, or Our Enemy Fallen, right? Why do I say that? Because, and again, this is all review, but the message of Nahum is the fall of Assyria, the impending coming destruction of the Assyrian Empire, okay? That is the message of Nahum. One more time, it is the impending coming destruction of the Assyrian Empire. All right? So I'm gonna do a lot of history here right now, and not a lot, but just these basic points here. When did the collapse of the Assyrian Empire occur? Like I said, it's not an immediate thing. It's not an immediate thing. You'll know when a company, or you'll know when an empire is going to get destroyed. You see its decline before you see its destruction. So the collapse of the Assyrian Empire occurs from 626 to 609 BC. Okay, so from that range, you see a slow destruction process. And that's the same for a lot of things. For example, Blockbuster. How many of you guys know Blockbuster? Remember Blockbuster, right? It's the place where you get to rent videos. You know, one of the stupidest choices they made was not to buy Netflix out. Netflix was going to offer them to buy Netflix was offering to sell their company to Blockbuster for like pennies. I think it was like 200 billion. And Blockbuster says, we don't think that you guys are financially lucrative. We think that you guys are going to end, and we think that people are still going to rent DVDs and so forth. So we're going to continue with our business model. And lo and behold, which one came up on top? Netflix. And Blockbuster is just non-existent anymore. You see the decline. You see the decline. And it's the same thing with the Assyrian Empire. Okay? Why did the collapse occur? Well, if I could, in my own personal interpretation, is they were too greedy. What they did was, like, the emperors during this time focused on Western expansion because they wanted to claim for themselves the sea trading routes that the Egyptians had in the Mediterranean. Okay? So I think it had a lot to do with greed, that they focused on Western expansion, trying to conquer Egypt and claim their sea trade routes in the Mediterranean. Because of that, of this one-sidedness, they neglected the eastern territory of their empire. And that was a big mistake because they neglected then the control of the Babylonians. They were a strong nation at this time, not as strong as Assyria, but they were strong. They were strong. And with certain allegiances that they had, they actually were strong enough to actually conquer the eastern side of the Assyrian Empire. So much so that they crept into Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. And the particular ruler of Babylon who conquers Assyria is a gentleman by the name of Nabopolassar. Nabopolassar, okay? It's 612. He conquers and he controls Babylon. He conquers and controls Nineveh, Nabopolassar. And then in 609, kaputs. Assyria's done. They had to file for bankruptcy, if you will. They didn't have the control any longer, and Babylon inherits all their assets, if you will, and they become head honcho. They're the one with the big stick now. Okay, so Nahum was writing during this time, right, literally right before it, actually. Nahum was literally writing before all this destruction of the Assyrian Empire occurs. For him, I believe it was spiritual discernment, if you will. I really do. I really feel that it was spiritual discernment that he realized that it was that Assyria was coming to an end. Okay, and I see that oh, Shabazz is here. Great. Yes. Okay, so that's Nahum, right? One more time. The message is the fall of the Assyrian Empire. Who conquers Assyria? What country or what empire? Babylonians. So we should talk about them, right? Let's talk about it. Good mythical working. So Babylon. All right. I'm giving you a map first. The initial location of Babylon. So the green area is known as the Fertile Crescent, except for Egypt's part. Okay, Egypt had their own fertility, and good for them. But this is the Nile River. Okay, but this part is known as the Fertile Crescent. Okay, and the reason why it was so fertile is because of these lovely two rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris. And you probably heard me say it, Mesopotamia. The word itself, it's Greek, Mesopotamia. It literally means between rivers, between rivers. Okay, so this is the area that was abundantly fertile, and this is where civilization started, if you will. You know, because of the fact of its fertility, he started then creating cities, and cities became city-states, and then city-states became empires, and so forth and so forth. Okay? So back in the day, this is where Assyria started off his empire building, right there. It was a little north near the Tigris. Okay? Babylon is more southeast. Babylon or Babylonia in this picture, don't worry about that. But Babylonia was the primitive, yeah, it was the primitive name of Babylon. But Babylon started where that black circle is, okay? And you can see that it was a very fertile area. You had both rivers surrounding you, you know? And so this was a very crop-producing area, if you will. Okay, but that's where Babylon starts. And like I said, during the time of 625 to 609 BC, the Syrian Empire was focusing on this people's group because they wanted trade in this large body of water. Okay, that's a lot of money right there, you guys. A whole lot of money. You know, you could get silk, you could get spices, you could trade your spices to Europe. You know where sugar comes from, or sugar came from? How they used sugar? Egypt. That's where sugar comes from. And everyone loves sugar. Why? Because there's an addictive quality to sugar. You know, and people wanted sugar, especially places that didn't have sugar. Okay, so Egypt was like this hotbed of spices and sugar and salts. You know, it's hard to imagine, but there's certain places that never had salt before. You know, and so Egypt produced it, and then they sold it off. That's big bucks, especially if you're selling to people that never had sugar or salt before, right? So that was the whole motive, that they wanted those trade routes. They wanted to see trade routes. So Assyria focused on the west, right here, okay? The problem, though, was Babylon was starting to grow. It was getting bigger, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they destroyed Assyria, okay? So that's what's going on, all right? Let me give you a little timeline of the Babylonians, okay? All right, Assyrian domination. It occurred, they got conquered in 729 BC. The Babylonians got conquered in 729 BC by Tiglath-Pileser III. Okay? Remember, Tiglath is like the ancient Hitler. All right? He was bad A, mofo kind of person. He was not cool. He was, don't get me wrong, he was brilliant. He was strategic. He was powerful, but he was evil, in my opinion. He imposed tactics that made everyone think he was a homicidal maniac. Okay, but what was Tiglath-Pileser's contribution for the Assyrian Empire? He did the most expanding. He did the most of the expansion of the Assyrian Empire. So this included the Babylonians. Okay, and how did he control it? Well, he started this idea called stabbing people with large sticks. It's called poling, or they impaled people. So like what you would do is you would take a person, you would hold them down, and then you would skewer them with this stick. And then you'll plant them in front of your walls and say, hey, look, if you ever mess with us again, this is what we're going to do to you. And not just simply to you. We'll do this to your mom, to your wife, to your daughters, to your sons. We'll do this to everyone. So don't mess with us, kind of thing. That's what Tiglath-Pileser did. He intimidated with fear. Okay? Now, that fear needs to be maintained all the time to make it work, right? If you lose power, that fear turns into resentment. And then resentment turns into revenge. It's like, oh, now I finally have the upper hand. I'm going to get back at you what you did to me, kind of thing. And that was the Babylonian mindset, okay? Now, so they are holding this grudge. They are holding a grudge towards the Assyrian Empire. And they said, shucks, if the Assyrians can do it, the Babylonians can do it as well. And this is the beginning of the Neo-Babylonian / Chaldean Empire. Okay? So what's going on that makes the Neo-Babylonian Chaldean Empire so powerful? Well, it starts with their enemies. The Assyrian power declines after the death of Ashur-banipal in 627 BC. And in 620, the Chaldean Nabopolassar, I talked about him, he's the one that actually says, finally, we are now an official company. We are now the official Neo-Babylonian Chaldean Empire because under Nabopolassar, he conquered Assyria. Okay? But in 620, he becomes the ruler. And then in 612, as I shared, Nineveh gets sacked or gets conquered. And then in 605, in the Battle of Carchemish, it was the final battle. Assyria's overdone. He's done now in 605. And there's biblical references to the Battle of Carchemish, which I provide here. 2 Kings 23:29, 2 Chronicles 35:25, and Jeremiah 22:10. And if you guys want to know a tangent, there's actually a Judean king that dies in the Battle of Carchemish. That Judean king is named Josiah. Josiah is the one that dies in the Battle of Carchemish. And it's kind of like it's a super downer, because what did Josiah contribute to the history of Israel? He brought revival to the people of Israel. And he expanded the territory. And so a lot of people saw Josiah as the coming Davidic king that was prophesied. Like he was the bee's knees. Everyone loved Josiah, okay? And then he dies. Okay? Are we cool? How about now? Like how much more?
Like 3 months.
Okay. That's cool. I can do attendance right now. Hello, I see you in Pakistan. Hi, Shabazz. Hi, everyone.
Sir, how are you?
Good, good. And yourself? How are you?
We are also good.
Excellent. Is Wishal with you
I'm
guys?
Cynthia.
I got you, Cynthia, and I also got Mina.
Yes, Vishal is just coming.
Okay.
He is on the
And
phone.
I'm assuming Nabil's there already, yes?
No, he is also in a way.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you for letting me know.
Okay, sir.
All right. So let me continue on more with the timeline. Here's a famous guy that you should know because you hear his name constantly in the Bible. And his name is Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? He rules from 605 to 562 BC.
How many years is that?
Let's see, 605, 62. It's over 40. It's about a shy off it. 43. Very good, yeah. Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. And why is he so significant, especially in now this goes beyond the book of Nahum. This gets into Jeremiah's time, okay? But why is he so significant is, well, first, well, there was a lot of rebellion with the people of Israel during the time of the Babylonians. And he instilled the first exile in 597 BC. And this is probably when Ezekiel gets exiled. There's 3 exiles that the people of Judah experience under Babylon. Okay? So he instills the first exile. Okay? And then also in 586 BC, he's the one that destroys Jerusalem. He's the one that destroys Jerusalem. In 586 BC. And then finally, not much longer after that, Babylon faces the same fate as the Assyrians, where they get conquered again, or they get conquered. And who conquers them? A gentleman by the name of Cyrus. Cyrus of Persia. Cyrus of Persia. His actual name, because Cyrus, I believe, is a Greek name. His actual name is Ahasuerus, and don't let me spell that. So
Do you know what Cyrus means?
I forgot. No, I don't. I don't. I think Cyrus is a transliteration of Ahasuerus. So I don't know how, but here you go. But the fall of Babylon was due to the Persians under the rule of Cyrus in 539 BC. Now, compared to Assyria, Assyria ruled for 300 years. I mean, how evil that they are. Good for them, right? Babylon only ruled. Let's see, they technically ruled in 605. No, we should say let's say 620. Let's just give it to them, 620, and then 530, in less than 100 years. Less than 100 years, okay? So in the scale, Babylon wasn't that great. Their only huge achievement was they they destroyed Big Honcho, okay? They conquered Assyria, right? So, but let's talk more about the Babylonians because I think we see more of the Babylonians in the Bible than we do Assyria, okay? So I want to talk now about their culture and their religion and so forth, all right? So let's talk about their Babylonian religion, okay? The Babylonian religion was polytheistic. Polytheistic. And does anyone know what I mean when I say polytheistic? Polytheistic. Multiple or many gods. Many gods, exactly. So they believe in many gods, okay? What's the difference between that and pantheistic? Does anyone want to take a
Well, pan means many too.
Right, exactly. So what's the difference though?
Poly would be the belief and worship of many gods.
No, that's pan as well, but there's a slight difference. Slight difference. Anyone want to take a stab at it? Thank you for taking a stab at it, Cynthia. Anyone else? What's the difference between polytheism and pantheism?
Is one acknowledging there are other gods?
What's up?
Is one just acknowledging?
No, that's the same thing as Cynthia was saying. Pantheism is the belief that everything is a god.
Oh, okay.
So this table is a god. Inside this table is a god. Inside that lamp, that stand is a god. I'm a god. Brandon is God. Alex, maybe not so much, but that clock, there's a god within it. Animals have a godlike spirit. So that's pantheism. Everything has a god. Poly is there's a lot of gods that you could worship. So yeah.
Because there's like such a thing as being like pansexual.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It means like anybody.
Exactly.
So I guess that makes sense. Like.
And it also means that you don't necessarily refer to yourself to one sexuality.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like when people say that, it's beyond just being bisexual.
Right. It's basically a person's way of saying, "Don't label me, bro.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sexually labeled."
But
so
knowing that, it makes sense because then it's like, oh, any sex, oh, any god.
right.
Anything.
There you go. So so there's a lot of gods that the Babylonians worship, but the big honcho, the big three are the ones that I give you. First is Anu. Anu is the head god. Anu is the head god, okay? He's the one that created everything. He's the father of everything. And he's also the transcendent god. He's the one that's far away. He doesn't deal with people, nor does he deal with his creation. He did his job, and just don't bother him anymore. That's Anu. Okay? The next one, and he's the one, like the mascot. He's the mascot of Babylon, and that person is Marduk. Marduk. He is the chief Babylonian god. So, like I said, in many ways, this is the ideal of Babylon. This is someone that you want to grow up to be, Marduk, right? And Marduk, he was the wielder of lightning bolts. He was the giver of rain. He was a warrior. And he was also, based on the language, he was also sexually virile. And that's what every man wanted to be at that time. He wanted to be Marduk, But this guy is very similar to the Assyrians and also the Canaanite god Baal. Okay? Now you've heard Baal constantly in the Bible. Baal is Marduk is the Babylonian version of Baal. Okay? So, how in Greek mythology, there's the Roman gods, and they're like the exact same, but they have different names. That's the same thing here that's going on. Marduk is the Babylonian name for Baal. Okay? All right, and then there was Ea. Oh, no, 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 I didn't want to do that yet. Oh, I spoiled the surprise. Okay, then there was Ea. There was Ea. And Ea was the god of water and wisdom. The god of water and wisdom. So these were the big three. Yes.
Because I remember the story with
Gilgamesh.
no, I can't. The one, gosh, okay, I'm just gonna tell you the story. I don't remember my names, but it was like the one god, and then he was like married to his sister.
Yes, that's Baal.
And then yeah, there it is. I was like, so obvious. I can't remember. Anyways, and so he's like married to his sister, and then there's like that water god that kills him.
Tiamat.
And she has to like blah blah blah. Is this the water god?
No, this is someone else entirely. So good though. That was the big epic mythology during this time. All right, so that's so like I said, they're polytheistic, and these are the big head honchos, and I'm going to show you pictures of them right now. Okay, so this guy with this pet griffin Pokemon thing, that is Anu. This is Anu. Okay. All right. Yes, go ahead.
What is the difference between head god and chief god?
Same thing. Same thing. This middle figure, and notice his lightning bolts, they're forks. That is Marduk. That is Marduk. Okay? And guess what he has? He has wings. Anyone who has wings is awesome. And then finally, the guy who wears a fish for a head, that's Ea. Ea. Okay? And for some reason, being wise means that you have to wear a fish on your head. But that's Ea. Okay? So those are the big three of Babylon. I want you guys to know this. I don't have this anywhere written in my presentation, but I want you guys to know this. The Babylonians were very religious. They were extremely, extremely religious, more so than the Assyrians. The Assyrians were very more secularized. They really didn't care about gods. Babylon was very religious. They did everything what the gods told them to do, kind of understanding. Okay, and one of the big things of their religion that showcased through history are their temples. Okay, and I'm going to show you a picture of their temples right now. Okay, ready? Ba-ba-da-bum. This is a huge thing. I know. I wish I could show you the scale of what this would look like, but they were so religious. They literally built man-made temples to reach their gods. And that was one of their temples, okay? The temples in Babylon were known as ziggurats.
Ziggurat. Oh, is that because it's like steps?
I don't know. Is that what ziggurat means?
I just remember that's what it looks like.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a man-made mountain. It's a man-made mountain. Why do they want to make a mountain? They want to make a mountain because that's where they believe the gods dwell. That's where they believe the gods dwell, okay? So they build these man-made mountains, but what do you notice at the top? So you notice all these different colors, right? What color is on the top? Blue, very unique. Why? Because blue to them is the color of the divine. Blue to them is the color of the divine. What else is blue? Sky, exactly. Can people live in the sky? Exactly. Can people live in the water? No. well, like deep into the water, like deep in the ocean. You know what I'm saying? No, you can't really live there, right? So a lot of times that conceptuality affected their religious beliefs, that these are places only gods can dwell, you know? And so the color blue to them was the place where the divine dwelt. And so that top place was their Holy of Holies. That's where the gods would commune and mingle with humanity and so forth, okay? So this sounds very familiar in the book of Genesis, right? What was something that could look like, what is something that looks like this or could have looked like this in the book of Genesis that humanity tried to build?
The Tower of Babel.
Very good. Very good. Very good. The Tower of Babel. And so a lot of people believe that the actual telling of that story or the writing of it actually took place when the Jews were exiled in Babylon. They got to see this giant-esque mountain temple, and they were saying that Babel is similar to Babylon, right? And so the whole idea is that the peoples come together with one language. What does God do? He places multiple languages, so there's this barrier and stuff like that. Yeah. So a lot of scholars think that the Tower of Babel looked like a ziggurat. Okay. Cool. So that's their religion. They were very, very religious people. All right. But they were also influential in culture. Why? They developed something called mathematics. Mathematics, specifically algebra. Algebra. Yes. We have to thank the Babylonians for algebra. They also dabbled into the sciences. For example, they were big in astronomy, astrology, and they developed the lunar calendar. Okay? Oh no, what did I do? Sorry. Let me do that again. All right. Now, what's the difference between astronomy and astrology?
Astronomy is the study of stars.
Astronomy is the study of the cosmic, right, of the universe or that. So it's not only stars, but planets as well.
Astrology would be the belief that it means something.
Good, very good. That's exactly right, Cynthia. So astronomy is just simply the study of the behavior of stars. Okay? Astrology is interpreting it, what it means. Now, I know in our day and age, it's not considered a science. But for them, it was considered a science. Okay? So astrology is like, what's your astrological sign? Aquarius, Pisces and stuff. That's what astrology is. Okay? Again, we don't consider it as a science, but they did. Okay? Yes.
Is this kind of like with, I think it was like politics that the chief or whatever
Uh-huh.
would know.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
and he would say like, oh, if we don't feed the gods,
Right.
we're going to take the sun away. But he knew an eclipse was coming.
Right.
So
So there was this sense of,
the astrology.
so he knew the eclipse was coming. What is that? That's astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
But then him interpreting and saying that the gods are angry at us, that is astrology. Okay? They also dabbled into medicine. And I'm not sure what kind of medicine they dabbled into, but there was this sense of physicians and hospitalizing people. But one of the big things is literature. And we see a whole mass of different kinds of genres of literature. For example, the myth, epic poems, wisdom writings, and laments. Okay, so one of the big stories that we know of from the Babylonian culture is the Epic of Gilgamesh, where there's this guy who wishes to become a god, and that's his whole journey and story.
Is that what that story's about?
Yep. And he meets a guy who talks about the flood and stuff like that, and he's about to become a god by eating this flower, but someone deceives him. It's an interesting story. All right. May I continue on or?
Yes.
Okay. Finally, this last slide is I want to give you a comparative difference between Assyria and Babylon. All right. What were the differences? Well, Assyria, one, they were very warlike. They were extremely warlike. Okay. However, the Babylonians were more agricultural. They were more agricultural, and they used more of capitalism, if you will. They were merchants. They were merchants. For the Assyrians, the king was the highest secular authority. The king was the highest secular authority. Now, please don't assume that there was no belief in God in Assyria. They believed in the gods. They believed in them, but they didn't take it as seriously as other cultures, like the Babylonians.
Like it didn't rule them,
Um,
but it was part of their system.
it was part of their system, exactly. However, for Babylon, it was the priesthood that was the highest authority. It was the priests who communicated to the gods that these certain kings need to be kings, and it was their divine right to do so. And so it was the highest order of authority in Babylon was a religious authority. It was a priesthood. Okay? And then the way that Assyria controlled his nation is an autocratic system. What it basically means that the head honcho and the only head honcho is the Assyrian king. He is a micromanager, if you will. Okay? A micromanager. That's what an autocrat is. A vassal system, basically, what a vassal system is, you hire governors and delegates to run your country. Okay? And so that's why we see Daniel being a governor of Babylon. He took care of these three major cities or something like that. That's what a vassal system is.
I'm sorry, what was the vassal system?
A vassal system is where you appoint delegates or governors to run your country. So it's Gover and or. But what it is so what you do is you divide your empire into sections, and then you have these particular individuals ruling those sections, and then they'll come to you and say, oh, this is what's happening. I need help with this. I need help with that. But they are pretty much the main source of authority for those regions. Okay? Cool? All right, let's take a break. I'll give you, it's 9 o'clock on that clock right there, so I'll come back here at 10 after, all right? I'm going to start recording now. So let's begin in Micah 1, everybody. All right. Who wants to read 1 through 5 for me? Micah 1 through 5. All right. All right.
Okay, and it reads, Micah 1 through 5.
Yes.
The word of the Lord that came to Micah of Morsheth during the reign of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, this vision he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. Hear, O people, all of you, listen, O earth, and all who are in it, that the sovereign Lord may witness against you. The Lord from his holy temple, judgment against all. Look, the Lord is coming from his dwelling place. He comes down and threads the high places.
Treads.
Treads the high places of the earth. The mountains melt beneath him, and the valleys split apart like wax before the fire, like water rushing down a slope. All this is because of Jacob's transgression, because of the sins of the house of Israel. What is Jacob's transgression? Is it not Samaria? What is Judah's high place? Is it not Jerusalem?
All right, excellent. So what kind of imagery do we have here? What is the Lord doing? He is judging. Very good. And who is he judging?
Samaria, Jerusalem.
He's judging Samaria and, okay, very good. Samaria and Jerusalem. Very good, Sella. What's the imagery that we have of his judgment prior in verses 2, 3, and I believe, 2 and 3. What does it look like? Or what is it describing?
2 and 3.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes?
Hello. Sorry for interruption.
Is it
I'm saying sorry for interruption. Yeah. We need to share our cam, Professor.
We need to share a what?
Webcam.
Camera. I don't see on my icon list that you can share a camera. There's no camera icon, so it seems like it's disconnected from your computer.
Professor, I think you will allow us, and then we shall be able to share our screen with you.
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you will allow us, then we can be able to.
No, that's the thing. I would have. I allowed SUM Pakistan's camera, but the icon on my list says that you don't have a camera.
Okay. So we are listening to you, so
okay.
Please continue.
And who's there, Shabazz?
Okay. Noreen and Shabazz, me and my wife.
Excellent. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for your time.
Okay. So what is he doing in verses 3 and 4? What is he doing in verses 3 and 4? And this is basically what is it? This is connected to his wrath. This is connected to his judgment. What is he doing in 3 and 4? What does it look like in 3 and 4?
He's coming down.
He's coming down. Okay, very good. We need to understand this. Does God move?
No.
Right. That's the popular understanding, that God doesn't move. But he's moving now. He's moving now. The immovable is moving. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Okay? And so I want you guys to understand that the immovable has moved just to punish Israel. All right? And just to punish Judah and Jerusalem. All right?
Just like when God came for Adam and Eve.
In a way, it's very significant that the fact that the immovable is moving. Okay? All right, verse 6 and 7. Who wants to read that? All right, go for it.
Therefore, I will make Samaria a heap of rubble, a place of planting vineyards. I will pour her stones into the valley and lay bare her foundation. All her idols will be broken to pieces. All her temple gifts will be burned with fire. I will destroy all her images, since she gathered her gifts from the wages of prostitutes. As the wages of prostitutes, they will again be used.
All right, excellent. So what is the main reason for the punishment? What is the main reason why he's going to bring Samaria in as a heap of rubble? Why is God doing it? why is God gonna bring Samaria to a heap of rubble? What's the reason behind it? Is it because he's just an angry God?
No.
He nitpicks at every little shortcoming that we have, or what is it? What is it?
Isn't Samaria where they had all the idols that the Jews worshipped?
No, Judah had it, but Samaria here, in this context, it is idolatry. Idolatry is the reason why he is going to punish Samaria into a heap of rubble. And then towards the end of it, he uses a metaphor for idolatry. And what is that metaphor?
He gathered her gifts from the wages of prostitution.
Very good, very good. So the whole idea is idolatry is committing an adulterous affair with the prostitute. All right? So that's what's happening right now. Why is it such a big deal? Why is it such a big deal that that idolatry? Who cares? It's just a cultural thing, right? Why should we worry about it? What's wrong with idolatry?
It's moving from the realm of monotheistic to heno.
Well, keep in mind they were very much heno before. And it's not necessarily, it doesn't really portray that yet. It's not as clear, you know? But why is it such a big deal to God? Why does Yahweh care? Yeah, Cynthia.
Is it because it makes like what he's done for them cheap?
Yes. Explain more. Give me,
Like,
expound on that for me.
like he's done so much for people.
Right.
He's provided, he's taken care of them, he's done
He
all
saved
that
them.
a husband should do.
Very good.
And then they turn around and it's not of any value to them.
Right, exactly. And so what we're having here is we're seeing the relationship it's an intimate relational thing. It's a very intimate relational thing. And that by simply worshiping these idols, it's a very grave situation. It's a very grave situation where the idea here is that you're not just simply worshiping these things externally. It's something more internal. You are in a way cheapening my covenant relationship with you. Okay? Excellent. 9 through, let's read 9 through, there's no stop. We'll just go through 9 through 12. Who wants to read 9 through 12 for me? Go, Marcella.
For Samaria's plague is incurable. It has spread to Judah. It has reached the very gate of my people, even to Jerusalem itself. Tell it not in Gath, weep not at all.
Wait. You read verse 9. Go back to verse 8.
Wait, 8?
Yeah.
You said
Did I say 9?
Yeah.
Never mind. 8.
Oh.
8 through 12.
Because of this, I will weep and wail. I will go about barefoot and naked. I will howl like a jackal and moan like an owl. For Samaria's plague is incurable. It has spread to Judah. It has reached the very gate of my people, even to Jerusalem itself. Tell it not to Gath, weep not at all. In Beth or Ophrah, Ophrah, roll in the dust. Pass by naked and in shame, you who live in Shaphir. Those who live in Zanin will not come out. Beth Ezel is in mourning. It no longer protects you. Those who live in Merath rise in pain, waiting for relief, because disaster has come from the Lord, even to the gate of Jerusalem.
Okay, so who is speaking here? Yeah, God is speaking here. And what kind of emotion does God have that we see in the beginning of this reading? What does he do? He cries, he wails, and then how does he act? He will go about what?
Barefoot and naked.
Okay, he will go about barefoot and naked. And barefoot and nakedness, what does that convey? Unprotected, excellent, vulnerable,
Like an orphan.
orphaned, very good. But this is God talking. This is God talking, isn't it? So how do we grasp this idea that he's weeping, he's wailing? First of all, who is he weeping and wailing for? Jerusalem and his children. He's weeping for Jerusalem and his children. Excellent. Excellent. And why is he weeping and wailing and acting vulnerable? He's naked and barefoot. He's acting vulnerable here. Why? Why? Based on what Sela read after. What's going on in the text after? What is he saying? What is he saying?
Because people in marriage writhe in pain.
Okay, and why are they writhing in pain?
Because
of the disease or the incurable.
Very good. And what is the incurable disease? Very good. Very good. All right. So this God, this God, Yahweh, is acting like a person who's seeing his loved one dying of cancer. That's kind of the imagery that I want you guys to see of Yahweh. He's weeping, he's wailing over this child, over this wife, however you wish to see Israel right now. He's weeping over her because there's this incurable disease about her. There's like a cancer about her, okay? And what is that cancer? Idolatry. Idolatry. That is the big cancer. So what does that say about idolatry? What does that say about idolatry? It's, what's that? It leads to death. Very good. But what else? Sela, what were you going to say? It's, oh, very good. It's contagious because Samaria has the incurable disease. Samaria has this incurable disease. And he says it twice. It's going where? It's going at the what of Jerusalem? It's going, at the gates of Jerusalem. It's spreading. This incurable disease is spreading. It's spreading all the way to Jerusalem. Excellent, excellent. Idolatry is, it's a part of humanity, unfortunately. It's a part of humanity. It's that desire to know that there's something bigger than yourself. So that's not a bad thing, right? The bad thing is you choose something other than God for that, right? So you could say, oh, money is my God. Family is my God. You know, a lot of people don't realize it, but they idolize their family. You know, the safety of their children, the well-being of their children. You know, they're willing to commit sin for their safety. You know, it's just like, it's, I mean, don't get me wrong. Family is important. Family is very important. But when it leads you to sin, and some of you might be thinking, how could that ever be? It can, you know. A lot of times people forsaken Christ because of their family.
Yeah.
You know, and so, so just, especially in cultures where it's very dangerous to be a Christian, you know. So, but family is an idolatry. Yourself, that you idolize yourself. It's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to tear idolatry away. It's not like you fixed it. It's never like you fixed it. You're in a constant battle with idolatry. We're always in a constant battle with idolatry because it's so convenient. Idolatry is far more convenient than worshiping Yahweh. Idolatry is far more convenient than worshiping Jesus Christ. Okay? And a lot of people think they say they worship Jesus, but in reality, they worship the dollar sign. In reality, they worship their church. In reality, they worship themselves just to see how good they look compared to other Christians. It's elusive. It creeps up on you. But always remember, idolatry is rooted in selfishness. That's the litmus test. That is the litmus test. Idolatry is rooted in selfishness. Okay? So that's the discernment. That's the discernment to figure out okay, is it truly of the Lord or is it not? If it affirms your selfishness, if it affirms you to establish your rights before other people, it's probably idolatry. It's probably idolatry. Okay? All right? So let's continue on and finish the chapter 13 through 16. Who wishes to read 13 through 16? All right, go for it.
You who live in Lachish harness fast horses to the chariot. You are where the sin of daughter Zion began, for the transgressions of Israel were found in you. Therefore you will give parting gifts to Moresheth Gath, the town of Akzib, will prove deceptive to the kings of Israel. I will bring a conqueror against you who live in Mareshah. The nobles of Israel will flee to Adullam. Shave your head in mourning for the children in whom you delight. Make yourself as bald as a vulture, for they will go from you into exile.
Okay, so what's the cure? What's this cure for an incurable disease? What's the cure? It sucks, but what is the cure?
Shaving your head.
No, that's the outcome of the cure. That's the outcome of the cure. What? Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That God will cure this disease by having a foreign nation invade your people. Yes.
It's such a common theme. Like,
Yeah.
Like God is always breaking people
Yeah.
in the Bible.
Yeah.
To show them, like, I remember in one of the classes I took, Major Prophet,
Mm-hmm.
he had said something like, God will always, like, allow you to go through things until you realize that it's always only been Him.
Yep.
And I was just like, this is such a common thing, but thinking about it, I've never heard it in this manner, like God literally allowing enemies to come against them and like causing them to fail or allowing them to fail, or it's just like,
right.
Does it always have to take pain and misery to turn to God?
No, of course not. Of course not. It's just human beings tend to do that upon themselves. That's the horrible thing. There's a lot of people, logical people, that say, "Oh yeah, this makes sense. I'm going to follow him." One perfect example that I know of that, but he also experienced childhood pain and trauma was C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis had a moment where logically the Christian God made sense. And he didn't go to a church. He didn't go anywhere. His conversion was in his room, and he prayed. And he says, all the evidence points to you. Help me become like you. And that was his conversion. It made sense to him. But other times, a lot of people, including myself, we have to be at that lowest point to realize God has always been there. And knowing that, and that's his faithfulness. It's like, who else should I turn to? Because, and I think that's why he allows us to get into our sin. He allows us to get into our sin because our sin rips everything of security away from us. And so we come to a point where we're naked and barefoot, and you look up and you see God naked and barefoot, weeping and wailing for us. And I was like, wow. The only person that's been rooting for me, or the only person that has been rooting for me, all my friends have left, my family's left, everyone's left, but the only person that I see when I look up on high is my God. Let me go back to him. So, all right. So that's for him. That's and for many prophets, the disease, the thing that will cure the incurable disease of idolatry is exile from a conqueror. It's an exile from a conqueror. It's ripping everything away that you're used to. And what is another way of saying that? It's ripping you away from your securities. security. So it's just like all these things that make you feel safe, that's not God, he's going to rip away those things in your life to help you realize, hey, look, I'm the only one you can trust.
I
Yes.
just thought about cancer.
Okay. Yeah.
How cancer makes, it takes away everything, and you gotta shave your head, and you're
Yeah.
coming to the end of your life, and you're realizing life. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
realizing the importance of life, and
Yeah.
maybe even like getting saved,
Mhm.
leaning on Jesus even
Right.
more. Yeah.
That's exactly, and that's why I think I think you said it. I think this is a perfect display of cancer. It's a perfect display of cancer, where the idea is it's a disease that rips away everything from you. The problem with idolatry is it's so deceptive. You don't see that, but it does. It rips away everything from you, and then you realize, or hopefully you realize, man, what was this all about? And then, like I said, you look up to a crying God. That's the powerful image. In the beginning, he says, I weep and wail, I walk barefoot and I'm naked because of this incurable disease. But I have the power to cure you. It's going to suck, pardon my language, but I want to cure you, And then so that you do look up to me and realize how much I cried for you, It's beautiful.
Oh, my heart.
Rend my heart, Lord. Okay, let's get into chapter 2, and let's forget the first 5 verses. Let's get into false prophets. Chapter 2, 6 through 11. Brandon, can you read that for me?
6 through 7.
Yes, please. Chapter 2.
Do not prophesy. The prophets say, do not prophesy about these things. Disgrace will not overtake us. The descendants of Jacob should be said that the Lord become patient, just to do such things. Do not my words be good to the ones whose ways are upright. 67.
Yeah, to 11.
Lately my people have risen up like men. You strip off the rich robe from those who pass by without care. Like men, you turn from them. You drive the women of my people from their pleasant homes. You take away my blessing from their children forever. Get up, go away. For this is not your resting place, because it is defiled. It is ruined beyond all remedy. If the liar and deceiver comes and says, I'll prophesy the me plenty of wine and beer, that would be just improper for this people.
Yikes. Yikes. So, what is the message of the false prophet? What is the message of the false prophet?
I will prophesy you weddings and wine.
So, it's not, we shouldn't take that literally, right? So what would be, can you describe to me what is in essence their message?
I'll give you comfort.
Very good. Don't worry about it. Forget about it. Forget about it. Nothing's going to harm us. Nothing's going to destroy us. Why? What is their false security? They're not their idols. What is their false security?
Their image of Yahweh.
Their image of Yahweh. Very good. Not Yahweh itself, but their image of Yahweh, their conception of Yahweh. Yahweh's our God. Yahweh's super powerful. Yahweh's on our side. Nothing's going to mess with us. Forget about it. Don't worry about it. It's the image of Yahweh. And that's why idolatry is such an elusive creature. It's such an elusive creature because you think you're thinking of the right God, but you just made an image of it. You just made an image of it. God loves me. God's going to take care of me. He's going to give me riches. He's going to give me prosperity. He's going to give me health. Are all those things good? Absolutely. Are all those things of God? Absolutely. But when you make a Polaroid picture of it, that becomes idolatry. When you make God static, that's only God. Nothing else. He's not a wrathful God. He's not a God who disciplines me. He's not a God who challenges me. He's not a God that will rip away my securities. My God is the loving God who gives me prosperity and health. That's my God. You have just made an image of Yahweh. You made an image of Yahweh. And that's the guise of the false prophets. Forget about it. God is super powerful. And God is on our side. He's not gonna punish us. He's not gonna mess with us. What's your problem? You know? Go ahead, Burnett.
Do you go to spiritual emphasis when we have those guest speakers and then and Chester tells us to gather around them and give them the word?
No.
Have you ever been there?
No.
There's so many times we're all surrounded by the pastors that come and speak and Chester's like, oh, give them a word. If you guys have a word, shout it out and things like that. And I get so antsy at those moments because all the time we want to give them, words of encouragement and we see flowers, good trees. I love that stuff. But there's sometimes when God is speaking to me, he's just like, there's something that needs to happen right here. And I'm too afraid to say it because everybody's giving all these nice words, these prosperous words to these people, and I'm just like, why can't we be a body? Why can't we?
But at that moment, that's the struggle of the prophet. Imagine that constantly. Because the prophet has a point. There's issues for every human being, and for some reason, as American Christians, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it, even if we wrap it in an encouragement sandwich. You know what I'm saying? You're doing great here. You're doing great down here, but there's something here that you need to work on. No one wants to hear it. It's because of our culture. But that's the prophet. So the prophet at that moment is just like, the prophet is the prophet. The prophet is a person who steps out and says, yeah, but,
Nobody does that.
Right. But now don't get me wrong. I think there's tactical ways of doing it, because no one wants to be in a collective group and someone say, yeah, but something's wrong here. As a person who's a brother and sister in Christ now, that's a different covenant. We have a different covenant where we go up to them and say, hey, everything that everyone said is true, but there's also this, and I want to share this to you privately. I want you to be careful here. I want you to do this. I want you to look out on this because this is what I feel God shared with me, And that's still a prophet, though. That's still a prophet. We just got to be tactile about it. Yes, Stella.
I was thinking about how sometimes when we're in the same kind of environment where everyone's prophesying these really dope words, they're all super encouraging. But when I was in a place, I went to this random night and everyone was prophesying over each other, and I don't know, it was like fire in my belly. I could not sit there, and I was just twitching. So I was like, you know what? This is not worth it. I'm gonna say what you want me to say.
Oh.
And I prophesied over this dude, and I was just like, you are something that was just not pleasant.
Yeah.
But it was but there's always gonna be, even in those unpleasant words, there's always this hope.
Oh yeah.
Hope of Christ that even in that, clinging to him will get you through it.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you're not going to go through it.
Right.
And I remember after I prophesied, everybody and their mother was like, well, we just want to pray to make sure that that was from the Lord. And I was like, how come we want to pray about these ones, making sure that it's of God and asking God for confirmation, but when it's about some prosperity, dope stuff,
why don't we test those things?
Why don't we test those things?
Yeah.
And then I was just thinking about how the heart of the prophet doesn't seek to, well, I don't know if it's about the prophet. This is just my heart. I don't seek to I don't like to, I guess go after people that are sinning outwardly. What I've noticed is what God is concerned about is their heart. What God is concerned about is the transformation of the person's heart, because when people are in sin or when they're about to go through things, no one wants to you don't want to I feel no one wants to, you don't want to correct them and be you need to stop doing this and stop doing that and stop, because you're fixing the outer struggle of sin, I guess.
Yeah.
But I feel when the prophet, when real correction happens, it doesn't seek to fix the outside. It always pierces the heart.
Yeah. And it's because it's the hard stuff. When it pierces the heart, it's the hard stuff, and that sometimes, and that's the reason why, in my opinion, a lot of people, including Israel, don't listen, because it's all about the externals to them. What are you saying? How could Yahweh do that to us? How could our Lord do that to us? What's wrong with you? You're messed up, and it's just okay, I mean, you had the chance, just like C.S. Lewis, to logically think about it and say, yeah, you're actually right. I will repent, but like the Ninevites and Jonah, but in reality, sometimes it takes us to go through the valley of sin and darkness when we realize I'm naked, I'm barefoot now, I'm cold, I'm alone, I'm scared. And then you look up and it's like, wait a minute. No, I'm not. And that becomes when surgery happens, and just like, hey, no, God's always been there for me. Yeah, Brandon.
I was gonna say, it's like people really feared a lot, surprised even here, even some students here, and I was really shocked at that. And
People what?
they're really like scared of prophecy.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the reasons why is because like one person wanted to say, you were just like, oh, I don't want anything bad said about me, whatever. And I said, okay, well, either way, God's gonna check you anyway, first and foremost. But I tell this person well, I've yet to tell this person, but I will. Like prophecy is just removing, excuse me, my language, all the crap, pretty much, to get to the diamond, And in order to really see the diamond, well, like you said, like God is going to rip this security. Oh, this is why you're not seeing what I'm seeing, but we got to get rid of this first. So in a sense, like your crap's going to be exposed anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
But it's not to. It's for the upgrade. It's not really to like belittle you.
Yeah, no. It's taking ownership of it.
Exactly.
It's taking ownership of it. So many ways, when it's bringing sin involved, a lot of times prophecy is to warn that person, right? And he goes, hey, you're doing all these great things, and God loves you for that. But God loves you also to let you know he knows what you're doing, and he knows that you're in sin. If you take ownership of it now, and if you repent of it now, then you just imagine what could happen, right? But if it doesn't, just know one of those absolute laws of the universe, sin will come out.
Yeah.
Sin will come out, and it will bring shame to you. Yeah, go for it. Ace, sorry, I saw this, and I was just like, whoa. Go for it, Sir Ace.
One thing that I've noticed about, I guess, I wouldn't just say the prophet, but just prophecy in general.
Yeah.
Is that when God gives you a word, especially for the prophet,
right,
he gives you the word because he can trust you. And so in him trusting us with the word, we have to be good stewards of how we deliver it.
That's right.
And so from the places that I've heard it and that I've been okay with, being in an environment where someone was getting checked, or even me myself being checked, like the way that I've seen it is that the prophet knows what the person's doing. Like God may show images,
right,
may reveal something, but the way that they say it is, discreet in the sense of like, what I mean
right,
when I say this.
Right, right.
And so if there was any situation where God revealed to you someone's sin, it's not for you to say every detail
sure,
of that sin because they know what they're doing.
Right.
And all that needs to be known is that God is revealing that for your accountability.
Right.
God is sharing it with me personally, but just wait. Eventually, it will be exposed to all.
Yeah, and I think
telling me, I'm just giving you a heads up.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly the idea that I got from what Brandon was saying too. So if you see that in that way, prophecy is a form of grace through Yahweh, where it's just like, hey, look, it's like in the book of Revelations. You guys are doing great here, but there's one thing you lack, and you got to work on it. If you don't, something really bad's going to happen. If you do, repent, and so forth. So, but the false prophets say, forget about it. # forget about it. But Micah is saying, no, worry about it, right? Now, I don't want us to make it super simplistic, okay? I don't want us to make it super simplistic, where the idea here is the prophet's message always negative? Is the prophet's message always to point out? No, it's not. It's not. Remember, and that's the reason why I want to really convey these prophets within historical context. What's happening here? Assyria, Babylon, they're reigning in power, and if nothing happens, they're going to destroy us. Why is God going to allow that? Why is God going to allow that? And from there, that's where the message comes. So for Micah and for the 12 and for Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, the reason is because we have been unfaithful based on idolatry and walked away from the Lord and forsaken him. That in his essence is the message of the prophets. Okay? So one more time, if I could give you a nutshell of the message of the prophets, it is this, that the people, God's chosen people, have chose to be unfaithful to Yahweh by committing idolatry. Okay? And so that's Micah's message, that's the 12's, that's the prophet's message. But where does it come from? It comes from the discernment of the times. It comes from the discernment of the times. He says Assyria, this giant monster from the north, and Babylon from the east. God, what's going on? What is going on? And for me, if anyone feels like they're called to be a prophet, I want you guys to, I think the first thing you guys need to do is discern the present time. Especially our election right now. Especially our election right now. We have Trump being the front runner of the GOP, of the Republican Party. We have a blatant socialist, Bernie Sanders, and a corrupt bureaucrat, Hillary Clinton, as for the Democratic Party. Who knows who's going to win? It's like the evil against evil, and we know that whatever they do is going to cause, where I feel whatever they do, whoever it is going to cause more division in the United States and more destruction in the United States. Why is God allowing that? Why is God allowing these candidates to look like they're going to be the president? I think that is the question that the prophet needs to ask. You know? Why haven't we even considered Ted Cruz, especially as evangelicals? Why haven't we considered Ted Cruz to be our front runner, especially as evangelicals? He's the closest evangelical that we have, you know? But again, I know politics gets messy, but that's what Micah did. That's what all the other prophets did. They discerned the times, and in my belief, they prayerfully asked God, God, what's going on? What's going on? What's happening? Or what do you want to do here? Because in my mind, what I see right now is like we're going through the toilet as America. We are really going through the toilet. By the pictures and the images that I see of our politicians, we're just going down the toilet. And you know what? Because of maybe my procrastination and my laziness, I haven't compelled myself to pray. But I should. I should really challenge it. And I want all of us to challenge ourselves and ask, God, what's going on here? Are you really allowing this to happen? And if so, why? Why are you allowing this to happen? Yes, Cynthia.
Okay. I have 3 thoughts.
Okay.
One, just like in the context of what we were just talking about with Micah,
Mm-hmm.
and what you were saying about like our current election, I would imagine that it would be for the same reason that the people of America, the people of America, as in like the Christians, the people who are just like the Israelites and the people of Jerusalem, like they had an obligation to obey God,
right.
Just like the Christians in America have an obligation to obey God. And in our idolatry, He's setting us up. And even going to like Daniel and Revelation, like God doesn't like empires.
There you go.
And so, not to say like, oh, death was America. I love America.
Sure.
But maybe I just imagine like that's why.
Okay.
He has an agenda to like, exactly like you said, like in this situation because of the crisis, like it compels Christians to go deeper.
I hope so.
You know?
I hope so.
And then also with like the whole like, not all prophets are like pointing out and like, like I was thinking of Jeremiah 29.
Good.
Where in 7 to 11, where it's talking about like I know that this sucks. I know that this is awful. I know this is like everything that could have ever gone wrong is happening right now. But don't worry, because I've got you. I'm holding you. I'm protecting you. I'm planning your future. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
I've still got you in my hand and I'm still holding you. Like, you know,
Okay.
and knowing the real understanding, like truly understanding what that really means.
Right.
Like, it's so, it just like comforts my heart. Like,
Right.
I don't know. That's probably like a weird way to phrase that. But like, it really comforts my heart.
So the way you're saying it, it's not the tone of the message. It's not if it's bad news, that means, oh, it's just God. Or it is good news, it's just God. It's truth.
Yeah.
It's truth. And whenever we pursue truth, we're always going to have people that are bad guys towards us.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll see.
And also, like, with the whole people want to accept good prophecies and, you know,
Yeah.
test the bad ones. But it was just, to me, I, like, thinking about this prophecy Misha Hammer had, where he was, like, this, like, false prophet.
Yeah.
As far as, like, her prophecy was concerned, where he was like, I see you starting my books, and you're going to become a nurse and a great nurse, and you're going to do this. And it was, like, a prosperity kind of message,
Sure.
where you're going to be very wealthy and you're going to, you know, be in the medical field
Yeah.
doing many things. And when he could tell she didn't want to receive it because that's not at all what she felt called to,
Right on.
he was like, and you're supposed to receive the word of the prophet and in the proper, and by doing so you have prosperity or something. And I was just like, I just think about things like that. How many other people did he say something like that to?
Right.
And because they didn't want to test it, they were misled, and in their
Yep.
being misled, like, it led to so many, like, could you imagine if she went down that road because
Right.
of what he said and
Right.
the struggle she would have faced
Right.
and the frustration and the lack of, like, faith she would have
And then-
faced?
and
Now
then-
you said, so why am I not having the prosperity you said? You know, and it's just like.
And then who said it? Then what will that person say? I'm blaming you, God, for this. Not the
Yeah.
prophet. I'm blaming you
Yeah,
for
and
this,
it's
you
just
know?
like, it grieves me because I just, like, it goes to that whole, like, don't become a teacher, you know, because it's just like, you can so utterly destroy a life.
Right.
And a path and
Yeah.
a calling because you yourself didn't want to test it, but also because, like, you didn't even want to test it as you were getting it. You know?
Right. No. And you know what helped her? What helped her realize that it was wrong?
Because she knew what.
There you go. There you go. That's the golden nugget right there. And hopefully once the one of the not successes, but you'll know after SUM that it was a successful experience when you have some kind of confidence of who your identity is in Christ, you know? And so it's just like, and so that will be your standard on what other people say about you. So, yes, go ahead. Final. You have the final say.
No, I was gonna say too, like God in a way is interesting, like obviously, but like I think of it's off topic, but I think of what's his face, Gideon, you know?
Yeah.
Like God could have easily said, man, like stop thinking low yourself, you freaking son of a gun. You know what I mean? Like why are you living like this? This is what you make. But instead he's like, you know, I don't have a problem with it. I don't really know who you are, like, you mighty man. You know what I mean?
Right.
So sometimes God won't always like, heck, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this, you know, but I don't know. Like he can come in different ways, that's my point. You know what I mean? Like not all prophecy's gonna, you know, like some people just cringe at prophecy, but it's like, no, he's not always like that.
Right.
But anyway, that's all. So that.
Amen. So class is dismissed just at 10. God bless you guys. We'll talk one more passage in Micah, and it's the Messiah passage where Jesus comes from and stuff. And so we'll talk about that. Then we'll probably get into Habakkuk and maybe Zephaniah. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Zephaniah. Yeah, let's hope so. So God bless you guys, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Zephaniah was